can everybody? Yep, I think we're just ready to call the public hearing to order. If you thought we'd get you on the phone first before we called that to order, so.
Absolutely, thank you.
Yes, we'll go ahead and call the public hearing to order.
Okay, so this public hearing is for the City of St. Francis. You guys were awarded your Community Development Block Grant from Kansas Department of Commerce for the Special CD COVID Relief Program. At the end of every CDBG project, it is a state requirement to hold a public hearing just to let the public know what these funds were used for. So these CD funds were used to grant 9 businesses with grant funds. These were 100% grant and no type of loans or matching funds required. The total grant award that St. Francis received was $173,600. $123,600 was used for the business portion. Then we got $35,000 that was used for food, for your food pantry. And then $15,000 was for grant administration to Northwest Kansas Planning and Development Commission. These funds are not taxable, and if any of the businesses were to close, there is no repayment of these grant funds. As an overall of the program, does council have any questions concerning your grant or concerns or comments?
We do have a guest here from the food pantry.
We do have a guest here from the food pantry. Zona Potter's here from the food pantry.
Okay, are there any comments or questions from the public?
I'm the only one here.
The food pantry would like to thank the City of St. Francis and the block grant for the food grant that we got. It allowed the food pantry to purchase quite a bit of fresh produce, extra bread, extra meats, and also to purchase extra non-perishable food items that we can store. And it's going to help the food pantry for at least a year with the non-perishable stuff. Freeing up other donations and grants that we get since then and in the future to help pay for utilities and non-food items that we carry every so often, as far as toiletries, diapers, formula, if we have a need for it. We used 85% of that grant locally through businesses to make our purchases, which puts everything back into the community as much as we could. As most people know, we operate solely on grants and donations, and this was a great blessing for us, and especially for those that are down on their life, especially because of the COVID, or families were not able to work because of the COVID. So we had a major influx of more families coming through the door every month. We went from 25 to 30 families all the way up to 45, almost 50 families during the COVID time. So it was a great blessing to have that extra money that we were able to provide for everybody.
Anything further, Zona? No. Anybody else have any questions, comments?
If there's nothing further for your public hearing, you can go ahead and close out your public hearing and go back into regular session.
Ask Justine if we need to have a motion to pay the final disbursement.
Did you hear that?
Yeah, you'll need a motion, but you have to get out of your public hearing to make a motion.
Okay. There's no further comments. I guess we'll go ahead and close the public hearing. And then we need a motion to pay out the...
Well, we probably need to call the regular meeting to order.
Go ahead and call the regular meeting to order.
Yeah, so with that, now we have to close out paperwork, which I had already sent to Lila. So this is just the remaining documents that we sent to Kansas Department of Commerce to close out everything in their book. So we just need one motion to approve St. Francis closeout number 20-E
Justine, that's CV-116.
Yes.
Do we have a second? Second by David, all in favor?
Do we need to vote on that, Justine?
Yes.
Okay, David? Yes. Dale? Yes. Sarah? Larry?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Okay, well, thank you guys so much. I'm really glad you guys got the opportunity to do this grant. I'm really glad we got some grants to Western Kansas.
Hey, congratulations on this third one.
Thank you. Yes, hopefully by Wednesday. So I appreciate you being able to do it via phone for me, so that makes it easier. But I will be out to look at your street project soon. So,
Perfect.
all right, we'll talk to you guys soon.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And all of the documents I shared, so if you want to see what's being signed, it's all out there.
Did everybody have a chance to read the minutes from the previous meeting? Additions, corrections? A motion to approve? Moved by Dale, second by Larry, all in favor? Consent agenda. The permission for clerk to pay insurance at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utilities at time of billing, permission for clerk to pay utility incentives for the particular amount, permission for clerk to pay theater bills when due, and permission for clerk to pay payment service network bills when due.
So,
Moved by David, second by Dara, all in favor? Motion passed. No sheriff, visitors, Tony, you're just here to...
I'm just here.
New business, we have resolution 2021-6 for concert in the park.
And I did send it to Attorney Routes for review and approval. And it should be there in your pile of papers.
Any questions on the resolution? Comments or comments or motion to approve? Moved by Dale, second by Dara, all in favor, or do we have number four? David? Yes. Dale? Sarah? Yes. Larry?
Yes.
All right, motion passed. Mike Timberfest, Van Rental Special Event Permit application.
They're requesting waiver of the rental fee for the band shell. And the next agenda item is the application for the cereal malt beverage license for Kale. And it would need to be pending receipt of the insurance, proof of insurance. If you approve it.
You just need to approve the special permit and van shell rental and the waiver fee.
Yes. Wait, the rental fee. Yes.
Waiver rental fee. I'll move that as the assuming the insurance too.
Is there a second? Second by Dara, moved by Larry, second by Dara, all in favor? And then the special event C&D permit application.
This doesn't need a resolution because it's in our code for cereal malt beverages. It's just a local special event permit is required. We have by ordinance.
I'll stop there.
Gail, where is it going to be? This is your application.
It should be on there as well.
Yeah. I don't think they can see it,
Oh,
though.
okay, yeah, this is Washington Street, I think, the dotted area. Yeah.
So Washington and Denison.
Washington, between parks, in case people want to see the covered park, or covered seating.
So does it go down to the end of the block where the museum is?
Yeah. I guess they're going to have somebody
to 8 is the hours that he has on the application.
Yeah, I think the beer's there, isn't it, to 5 or 7.
And then that's doing concert, which is doing downtown.
Yeah, in the park, in the concert.
Well, they're having music, though.
Yeah, it's, yeah, but it's during the day, I thought.
But there's
It's not
a-
actually only two, so we're doing the concert.
Yeah.
We're just doing more.
And it's across, it's what happens, across the street. Yeah.
16 bucks.
Yeah, the game's gonna be where it starts.
It's just, we don't do the CMUs very often, but these are always just
Right across
all the way
the
to the
street.
front at some point.
Service station.
Yeah, as regard to this, but
Oh, yes, okay.
Any other questions on the, what you said, CMU permit? Motion to approve. Moved by Aaron,
Second.
second by Larry, all in favor? That's right.
it works.
I don't think we have representation.
You can vote even though you're running the meeting. Yes, you can.
Yep, motion passed.
I don't think it would need to, I don't think you need to vote even if it doesn't hurt. Well, we wouldn't have quorum though if she doesn't.
Why wouldn't we?
Because Caleb's abstaining.
Okay, but still 3 out of 5 council members.
If she votes, yes. If she,
No.
It's not necessary.
Larry, Dara, and David make 3.
oh, Judy.
So I'm...
David,
Okay.
David was invisible to me for a moment. Never mind.
Okay.
Sometimes it's like form or percentage. I know there's certain things you vote on that are
Okay, never mind.
worth it.
I was like, am I counting right?
Yes, everybody.
Did somebody else
was counting.
abstain?
Oh my goodness. Ah.
Okay, property cleanup.
So we have that McCoy property that was of interest that he showed up to our last meeting at. And Amanda and I looked at it today and listed out the things. I've got a bunch of updated pictures of the property
Okay.
to forward.
And you'll email me with a list
Yes.
of the pictures? Okay.
I just wanted to go over this because there was other people that may have gone by it and or to make sure I didn't miss something. I meant to send this to Amanda. I did not get it done prior to the meeting, but basically from the pictures, some of the things were really obvious. There was siding on the east side, window on the west side, boarded windows in the basement, scrub growth and weeds throughout the property, bricks on the sidewalk. There's a bunch of junk in the driveway, old furniture and just household trash, actually. And then I listed that garage, too, as a paint, as in both of the structures need painted and just cleaned up and finished up, and then doors and paint on the garage. It's just plywood that's leaned up against the front of that thing. I did walk around both the other properties to look at it, to try to get a thorough look at it, and I think that covers pretty much everything that we would require. Although the quality of work is obviously in question on the roof, I think once it's surpassing water running in the top, we would be getting into more than what it's worth for the city's position. I think if you clean up and do these things, it would be we could move on. But in the event he does not do these things, then I think we'd have the ability to press the structure, honestly. So that's the position I believe the city should take on.
Anything else property cleanup?
Still some dead vehicles in the streets. Like I see some photos there last week.
You sent me photos?
Yeah. They text me. They may not have looked at it. I don't know.
Did you call him?
No, I just sent you a couple photos.
Okay.
Someone finding a dump truck that's been parked there a while. Still active.
I think, like we talked about before, to try to get it to, or just call them in, and that way they can have it on record up there and what it was responded to.
Gotcha.
I think that'd be the way.
That's it. That's all I have.
Anybody else?
The 118 West Emerson property has until August 15th to get the piles of debris cleaned up. I just have the timeline marked for follow-up, and so I will drive by it and see if that's been met, and if not, we'll send out a letter. I'll send out a property cleanup letter stating just because it's not in condemnation status does not mean it's not in property cleanup status, and you can still be brought before municipal court ordering that there's cleanup. But the first date he has is August 15th, and so I'm not going to check it until the
I will
16th.
check it. You being a neighbor, it's not your place to check
Okay.
it.
Well, I was going to drive by and see and then
That's
let
fine.
you know.
Let me know and let me
Yeah.
report that.
Right. Yeah. I will let you know. Basically, if everything on this goes the way he says it will go, I'm not going to communicate any further, but yeah.
Project spending.
Have you heard from Mr. Baxter?
I have not seen those other emails. I think I need to get that done. I get sidetracked in the video. So I have not got him. Have you visited with him?
I've not. He had stated that the last I knew, he had received that from you and he'd received the maps that I forwarded him, that you had sent me, and he had thought he was going to be given more information, which I think are the emails you're talking about, and so I think he was waiting on that, so I don't have any further of an update.
Anything else? Project spending?
I'm not aware that Scott has heard any more from Greg Cutter on the bench shell issue. According to Greg.
There's nothing else. We'll go on to street project.
So as you can see, there's lots of activity on the streets, and the rain's not helping much. But we are moving actually pretty fast to get quite a bit of the concrete poured. Of course, they're going to do all of that first before they can do the actual street work. I think maybe I mentioned at the last meeting that because they're going to be pulling out for a period of time, that all concrete will be done, and hopefully the first layer of asphalt will be in, or at least compacted where water is not a great issue on the streets. In reference to that delay, I've talked to Tyler. I know he's talked to Justine. There's communication going on as far as extending that. It's not going to be a problem. We just don't know when it is. I think we'll come back with that change for that deadline when we figure out exactly what it is, in case they have any issue on that other project. We didn't want to make it too narrow. And they'll kind of wait until they get a little further into this project. So there will be more information on the changing of the deadline of the contract. You'll notice, I kind of forgot, and I didn't mention this prior, but you'll notice on all the corners, they're doing ADA ramps, which is a little different in a residential area, but that is a requirement of using the federal funds. They're inconvenient places, and I don't mean that in any way when people use them, but in drainage situations, they're complicating some of the intersections, specifically Spencer and Benton, which is right over here. It's an extreme waterway. We've been looking at it, going over and over it. I just want to have this discussion here because when things do or don't work out properly, we are looking at it over and over, trying to figure out how to deal with the ADA corners and keep more water from going on Main Street, or equally bad, more water from going down Spencer. It's a really complicated intersection, and it's being looked at every inch. I was hoping we'd get another rain so I could show them the way the water flows, because to change it in either direction is a bad deal on that. So it is getting a lot of attention. Doesn't mean it'll be perfect. It's just hard to say. That is a weird intersection. It cascades across it while moving really fast to the west, which forces it onto the sidewalk and headed towards Main Street. We used to have problems with it going in the front of the grocery store on Main Street until we fixed this intersection right here, which has a weird little cut thing in it. It wasn't even by design, but it did do a lot of good to the grocery store. With the cause and effect of that much water, we're just trying to spend a lot of time on making sure that intersection is right. It's a very main drain
So I got a
break point.
little question on this. The way Spencer Street is set up like that, why is there more focus on running the water down to his town all the time?
It's too much of it.
Too much.
Yeah, because when you get to the vehicles that stay on the north gutter, it gets up into yards, it gets right up to doors. I mean, it really is a lot of water. Yep. If you set it all that way, you'd have to be all the way to Benton Street. Huge investment. I mean, literally, and then at that point, by the time you get to the end, you're well over the gutters at the far end. In fact, living on that end of the street, that end of town previously, it would go up over the sidewalks in a real heavy rain. I mean, another foot of water would be extremely dangerous. I mean, it gets probably close to 2.5 feet in the center of the street.
I can vouch for that. Like, when I was little, was when they put that in, and anytime it rained decent, we had water up to the left. So, and even when they put that in, when we get super heavy rain, it was full of water. I mean, when it's super heavy, like that rock in front of, like my front porch, that all washed out in my driveway. When we get super heavy rain. So, I didn't see any additional, we would have to be a good
changing that much stormwater's direction in any percentage is detrimental to one or the other.
Yes.
So, anyway, I just want to be clear that that's not overlooked. It is going to be redesigned. It is going to look different, and in the event it flows different, and predictions are not proper, I hope that's why we have an engineer. I hope that's not the case, but when you change that much and put in those ADAs in locations where water swirls and cascades and pushes it up over humps and stuff, there's too many moving parts to really, honestly, for me to be comfortable with it, and that's why we keep rehashing this intersection. So,
Carol, we may have addressed this prior. I can't remember. I went back and looked at some notes and I couldn't find anything. But on a personal note, having a business there on Quincy and North, are we planning on doing anything with that section where it's gravel on the last edge of Quincy and all the way down to, I think,
Quincy
John?
and North? The intersection of Quincy and North? The dirt corner. Now I'm with it. Okay, yeah. That's the name of things. We'll call it the dirt corner. There is not a plan. At this point in time, there is not, other than to try to keep the drainage open on that. It's a problem. Obviously, when we get a wet year and when we get a dry 5-year run and everybody forgets about it, it's just a gravel street. If it's something that came to a priority, obviously something could be done. It's too fast of water to just assume you could asphalt it or do something simple with it. But I think that's why it's gone back to putting it back where it is as it does. But certainly something that could be discussed.
And then on the streets, there's a few of them that aren't traveled as much, maybe on the side streets, that a lot of the leaves are coming up and cracked so bad that I think they're hard to pull, they're hard to cut. So I didn't know.
We spray them.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
So, and I know weeds are hard right now. Spray's not even hardly
They become quite
People are asking, that's why I'm.
And it's an exceptionally bad year in that way, plus the
It is,
condition of
I
the
know.
streets with the cracks, yes, they go. Yeah, it's, at this point, it's at least 2 or 3 times a week they're going to be spraying the streets.
Yeah.
And yes, they are resistant. So,
Yes. Okay. Back to the board.
yeah. No problem.
Thank you.
Yeah. The Fourth Street addition, based on Parkway Drive, that is that real short hill that goes up towards Francis Street, that the engineer proposed that we do that half a block to keep erosion from running rocks onto the new concrete and or just debris in general coming down that hillside. I think I mentioned last meeting, I had them bid it 2 different ways, one with concrete and curb and gutter on the south, and one with asphalt, basically barriered by concrete on all sides, so it would just be a street. I'm talking about just how much actual traffic and or heavy traffic is on that. The engineer agreed that the far lesser cost based on a not heavily used street was the better way to protect the lower investment. I mean, it really, we're not gaining anything as far as time or anything by doing the concrete. The concrete estimate on that is $39,734, and the asphalt with the concrete backing was $29,714.
What do you mean by concrete bag?
So at the top edge, you're going to dirt. You have to have something that brings your asphalt to a rigid end. You can't taper asphalt. You can,
At the top of the hill.
yep, you can run a hard end to concrete, of course, to dirt, but you can't do that with asphalt, so it has to have a backer there. That was $26,714. I know I wrote that down wrong.
Okay, sounds,
That's what I had in my minutes, is 26,714.
That's what it is. I just, for some reason, I wrote it down wrong. I guess I would ask that we go ahead and approve that addition. We've got all kinds of changes, but that's a lot of that is a give and take on curb and gutter and do this section of sidewalk and not this. But this is an actual addition to the contract, so I guess I would like to ask for approval to add this piece to the contract.
Will that asphalt force out of it?
That's where your asphalt or your concrete is for. It'll be chip sealed like the other does, but just based on the not heavy traffic, it'll be there.
Is it similar to what will be on the rain? Or on the east side again?
That's nice.
Oh,
Yeah, this would be hot mix asphalt.
okay.
Yeah.
Is that the best option?
Yes.
Not the higher one?
What's that?
The all concrete's probably not a good idea.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll make a motion for that.
by Kale, second by David, all in favor? Motion passed.
And I think other than questions with homeowners and as far as, do we have to pay more if they do more and those kind of things, I think we're all clear on that. I'm answering those questions also. Obviously, nobody's going to pay more than what they was told they'd be assessed originally. And if they were told zero in the beginning and they see stuff being torn up, it's not on them. That's on the project. So, and then that it does seem to be moving along pretty well.
Any other comments on street traffic?
Report.
Last legit pool day is going to be the 15th. Last full day, Friday the 13th. Am I reading those dates right? Okay. Okay, Friday will be the last full day at the pool. They will be open Saturday and Sunday, normal schedules, I think. From then on, they'll be open weekends for a couple weekends through the end of the month. She does have some private parties scheduled. She is going to continue to do laps in the morning and exercise at night through the end of August. JR and I had a conversation today as far as the painting that's going to be done this fall. We both agree that we need to have this pool needs to be done by the end of August. Correct? So we can get as in closed up, as in done. If there's any school involvement, I would think, if I remember right, it was suggesting maybe within a week or two, we'll go ahead and schedule another meeting to discuss some of the issues we've had this year. We've had a pretty good year. I mean, things have gone pretty well. We do have some concerns that I'd like to get addressed. We need to talk about how we handle lifeguard training next year. Lyle and I are going to talk a little more about that. Has anybody had comments, concerns, any issues this year that you've heard about?
What?
You got this stare in your eye like,
I'm listening to your report, and I'm wearing your shirt. Like pineapple.
I think all in all, it's been a pretty good year. We haven't had any real mechanical issues. Things have gone pretty well. We're frustrated that we can't keep the pool open longer, and that was one of the things we really tried to drive into the kids at the beginning of the season. Can you stay and work through the August? Now, we got a couple kids going off to school, stuff like that, and granted, school's starting, practices are starting and stuff, but it's frustrating to me that we can't at least maybe get a couple evenings a week. And we've fought this for years. It's always been this way. I don't have a good answer. We've never come up with a good answer. The only way that I could see it even potentially being able to be viable would be to have a couple of adults that could continue on through the month of August where you could have some hours here and there and stuff. But at this point, it's just not feasible. We don't have the labor. Kids get started with school. They don't want to do anything else. So that's kind of where we're at. The last full day will be Sunday.
I do have a question. I didn't want to be that guy, but about a week and a half ago before I left for Texas, I was down in my office till about midnight, and maybe 11:30 midnight, and I come down the road, and I saw 2 or 3 people in the pool, all the main lights off, the lights are on. And I thought, well, they're probably workers. So I just didn't say anything. Is that all?
Should not have been. Not at that hour of night. And I will mention this because after we got done working the fair Saturday night, Terry drove down Main Street about 10:15. There was 2 kids were trying to climb the fence.
Oh.
And so she's seen them, slowed down, turned around and come back, and she thinks she ran them off. But I haven't heard of any issues like that. But if something like that occurs, it should not be lifeguards after we're closed at night. That should not be happening. So, I mean, that's all I ask.
It's okay as long as it's people climbing the fence.
Say that.
As long as it's not lifeguards.
As long as it's not like
Now, what if lifeguards that climb the fence? Is that okay?
You guys remember, that's happening.
So we have the ability, without getting over surveillance, we do have a connection there. An IP camera could be put there and made live. If that becomes a problem, it could be put there.
I haven't heard of any of those kind of issues, and maybe this was just a fluke with Terry so excited.
And they didn't seem to be causing problems. They were all 3 just shooting hoops with that basketball ball in the water, and they were just in the water shooting
But it
hoops.
was late that night?
It was pretty late, yeah.
So, let me clarify, lifeguards are not supposed to use the pool after hours?
Well, not at midnight.
Is there something, there probably needs to be a written policy for the guards, and if they're allowed to use it certain hours after it's closed or whatever.
I'll have to check into that.
Yeah.
And I'll ask about the midnight shift.
I'd like to say it could have been 11:30, 11:45, but it was pretty late.
My recollection, we've never let, I mean, maybe for a half an hour, an hour after you close up at night, like 10 o'clock. I don't remember anybody.
Well, I almost called you, and I thought, no, I don't want to be that guy.
Yeah, so we'll be that guy. Because if you're not, I've got plenty of those other guys.
Okay.
No, I appreciate you very much. Any questions?
So we can't jump the fence.
Just to be clear.
I'd like to see you try it.
Well, that was extra.
No, I'm going to go, since we're for on record, I'm going to say no one is to be climbing that fence.
We got into an issue with that. Years ago. We had people that actually do that. In fact, we had a lifeguard who did it and injured himself.
The new one is
Was it over? That's been, five, 6 years ago. Something like that.
Anything else for Larry? Moved by Gale? Second by David, all in favor? Motion passed. Building permits.
I did two, but I forgot to get Lila's in to get them scanned and they're on my desk, so they're both approved. I'll just have to get them clarified for next meeting.
Superintendent report.
First thing I got, we're doing the surveillance system on the recycle center. We have to get some conduit put in for underground power, so we're not running it overhead. Also some hardware to the composting area. So I got an estimate from TL Electric to do that work. It's $2,207.12. I recommend we go with that price. It's 270 feet of 1-inch PVC for a 20-amp breaker with a 10 by 10 weather-tight box to house equipment. And then the electrical work inside the recycle building.
Did you get any other bids?
What's that?
Did you get any
No.
other bids?
I think it's needed.
We need something. I don't think we need bids.
Yeah, it's a little bit softer. The problem with cord, right? So,
We didn't put it out either. I mean, that's.
We didn't, because I have to get it done because they're going to be here in September.
oh,
And this is a fair price. It's right at the charging everything. It's not a large scale project.
That's still one of the biggest complaints on here is about putting things out to bid.
yeah.
I mean, that's one of the biggest.
I will take
complaints
that
I get.
as advice and still suggest we do it just based on the timeline we're trying to get this in.
I said let's move forward.
But the other thing that maybe which we have a bid policy, right? So we had talked about that before.
The procurement policy, yeah, that we had to have for the grant. But
I think, yeah,
if it's a situation that,
it has to be done. And moving forward, I know that's one of the biggest grants I get from contractors is they don't, you know, if things aren't put out for bid, they can't bid on the job.
And I would go back every time we put something out for bid, then we have to go ask to get one too. So
Yeah.
it kind of goes both ways. Understood.
Yeah. But totally understand. Can I hear a motion to move forward with,
Sorry.
moved by David? Second by Gail, all in favor? All right.
Obviously, Larry brought it up, Baker is the pool painter, and they want to start just as soon as we can get that drain. That's why I was asking for the deadline date on that, so they can get started. We have to actually de-water the spring and do all the prep work to be able to do that, so it's not just pools closed, painters in. So that's why I was looking for that date for that. As far as recycling, so the county thought maybe they had a driver that was interested in driving the trash truck all the way to Hutchinson. It sounds like that's not going to work. So we will be sending someone, hopefully I can get somebody from the county to take that part of the time, the recycle requirement of having recycles. The county and needs to come back to the city, which Dave was good about helping when we have to haul stuff and do things, but the burden of running a truck all the way down there and back, losing a person for a whole day is a bit much. We think it's going to be every 6 to 8 weeks, but volume changes throughout the time of the year, too. Of course, then you're running the winter. Back and forth. So, yeah, I want to spread it around a little bit. On that same note, we have to go to Bird City sometime this week because they are overflowing with the city's trash truck and compact their stuff. So we're still getting figured out how we're going to use the resources, but unfortunately right now we're using all our resources. David had offered to take it over here a while back, but I didn't want our trash truck going without our guys and me and being utilized for that. So we have to do that as well. Hopefully we get things ironed out on that. We can, this is a really strange thing too in recycling. It's more of an operational note, but all along we've been told we needed to should, bail paper, and they would just take it. It's like they wouldn't pay us for it, they'd take it. I called the individual at Sunoco, and after a long conversation, the point came out that all mixed paper is the same thing as chipboard, which they pay to take. So if we mix the chipboard with that, they give us chipboard prices. It's the most ridiculous misunderstanding if that is in fact what it was, because I've been reluctant to handle the paper because it's just handling it. But meaning they're going to offset costs for it as long as we can bail it, we're going to attempt to. So we actually got an extra baler just to bail paper. That's why something changed in their view or something.
Newspaper, shredded paper.
Books, magazines, everything is the same as chipboard. And it wasn't. Something changed down the line. But anyway,
That's a good thing.
it is a good thing as long as we have enough chipboard, because we don't have the right compactors for doing actual paper. It takes far more compression because it has no memory. And if we can mix it with chipboard, a little bit of cardboard, we should be able to get rid of that. And or have a little bit of that cost offset. But I didn't want to get into us handling a bunch of things to give it that resource away, and that's not going to be the case. So hopefully we don't get to a point where we say we don't take paper anymore or something like that. That's why I think it's encouraging. We kept getting down to what we can recycle and what we can actually make sense of handling. And that puts paper back in use. Board continues on Peter 3. This new crew did a great job. They're moving along pretty fast. They're getting a lot of work done. We did have an unplanned outage. That was happened here a while back. Nobody was hurt. It wasn't a big thing. It's happening. The kind of thing that's happened to us, but we had an unplanned outage.
It was only about 2 minutes, right?
Yeah, since we knew right where it was. No, it was during work hours. Boom, get into it. That we didn't. It must have been a phase slapper. Somebody hit a pole and slapped phases, but we couldn't find that thing. That was kind of weird. That happens too, where somebody backs into a pole and you don't see the mark on the pole, slaps the faces together. So I had to get what it was because it's dead calm. And then we put it back on the stand. That's what we speculated it was. Boiler, I had that listed as being during the same time as these other projects. That is not the case. I did hear back from American Boiler, and they will be here next month, so that's actually a referral from nice thing. They do that. Just be reminded that sometime this fall, I'm still going to be looking for a new digger dairy truck for the city. That giant, outdated thing we have still works, but it's the wrong size, and it's very old. We depend on it very heavily in stormwater situations and or just maintenance. I just talked to Larry about this a minute ago. I do not want to let this fall off the radar. And it's not because Roger came and pointed out he would like something done with it, but we actually have a structural issue with that fence on the east side of the swimming pool. We've got to get an estimate. We've got to come up with something that deals with that at a minimum, and I think we should address it.
Is it from erosion?
It's actually eroded more, and I kind of noticed it, but until Roger was talking about it, and of course I went back and looked at it again, it's undercut up underneath that thing. It needs regraded. Something needs to hold it there. So we need to move forward with something on that, even if it would be back to the carpet or concrete. Or the rubber thing's not going to work. For the simple fact, somehow we have to maintain that fence, or we're going to be, covering the cost of a residential fence. So just want to keep that. I mentioned that to Larry too, so he won't let me forget. He's accusing me of forgetting. And that's all I have.
You forget?
If I don't put it into this, it's gone right after you say it. That's the fact.
Any questions for Darren?
Can I ask that later? But I'm certain.
Motion to approve the superintendent. Second by Larry, all in favor? Okay. Attorney report.
Last meeting, I mentioned that we may be seeking some jail time for an individual for driving without a license. This individual had that charge previously in district court and then was cited in in municipal court. And last Wednesday, 2 Wednesdays ago, last Wednesday, between our last session and now, he had court for district court, and I'm required to say allegedly. He allegedly drove himself to court for driving without a license. And so he was arrested on municipal charges, and
Allegedly laughing.
and so he was arrested on municipal charges and spent, I think, 16 hours is the maximum they can hold on municipal charges, and so he was issued another citation. I have reached out. It's my understanding this individual has a plea agreement with the county, and so I have reached out to find out what the terms of that agreement are so that we may be able to tailor an agreement for this individual. I'm just not sure. I think we're just going to have to go with a fair amount of jail time because this individual cannot afford counsel, and so I'm not sure that, as I stated before, me trying to get him to pay his fines to the city is going to be a productive use of my time or the city's funds. So I just wanted to update the council because it's not very frequent that we have someone incarcerated, but I think we're probably going to. That's all I have on that. I don't think I have anything else. Any questions for Lauren?
Not do I hear a motion to approve the attorney report? Anybody else? Second by Darrell, all in favor? Clerk report.
So at the last meeting when we were talking about the resolutions, I had said I'd reach out to the league and get their input on whether or not that was appropriate to do. The response I got back is that it's not an uncommon practice among cities for city staff to do the preliminary work on standard resolutions and ordinances similar to what that one is, and then passing it on to the city attorney for their review, approval, amendment, or whatever. So exactly what Lauren proposed we do. And they also mentioned that a lot of cities have agreements with their city attorneys for a flat fee, a document review fee.
If it's that, I am fine with, if it's something like a resolution, I'm fine with not billing the city for it. I mean, I'm agreeable to that in the course of it. However, the flat fee, if the city wants to pursue that, I'm going to ask that it be on a by-page basis, not by-document basis, because that 292-page contract that I had to go through, my understanding was that Mike did resolutions for $100. I think the resolution preparation was $100 that Mike billed for a resolution.
I think it was $75, but I could be wrong. I'd have to go back.
Okay. So, I mean, whatever he billed for a resolution, that would be fine or appropriate, or, I mean, whatever the city would want to do, we could discuss that, but I'm not agreeing to review 292 pages for $75.
I don't think that's what he was talking about. I think he was addressing specifically my question, which was
Right.
like the standard traffic ordinance, the Uniform Public Offense Code, the GAP resolution, the ones that never change. Those were the ones that specifically had.
Yeah, and if that's the case, I mean, I'm kind of not billing the city for my review of that. I mean, I look at the one that was approved last year. I look at this one. I make sure that nothing's changed. I make sure that there's been nothing. I mean, I keep up with, you know, if there's something that needs to be changed in the resolution, we need to actually change the resolution, then then that would be different. But, I mean, I have no problem not billing the city for just changing the dates or changing the years or changing something like that. If Lila does it and I review it, I have no qualms with that. I'm not trying to... Yeah, I mean, I try to be fairly cost conscious of what I'm doing for the city. And so I have no qualms with that. I looked into it also. To answer Cal and Amanda's question, you said what's the difference between like going online and printing out a form of a deed? People can always represent themselves per se, but it's when you are preparing, the Supreme Court defines practice of law. One of the things is preparing preparing legal documents or documents with legal ramifications as part of practice of law. And you're always allowed to do that for yourself, but you are not permitted to do that for another person, and person in this case is defined as a corporation or an entity. So you're always able to do it for yourself, but you are not permitted to do it for anyone else. So that's that. But I mean, yeah, Lila sent it to me. I reviewed it. I sent her the okay. I didn't bill for it. So, I mean, I have no problem agreeing on record if Lila's going to do those. Now, if it's a resolution that needs to be drafted.
Sure, that's entirely.
Right.
I would not want to even, that wouldn't make sense.
But, yeah, I have no problem reviewing those resolutions if Lila wants to draft them and just email them to me before the meeting. I'll take a look at them and email it back, whether yes, it's good, or hey, check this out.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what about the ordinances like the PSDO and the UPOC that don't ever change except for the, you know?
That's fine. I mean, when we get into, yeah, that's fine. I mean, so when we're redoing ordinances such as the flags on ATVs and things, I'll draft that. But yeah, I'm fine with that as well.
Okay.
Anything that's just changing a year, changing a date, changing a location, but it's pretty much a standard form, I'm fine if you want to do that and just send it to me for my review, just because I want to.
That would be good.
I want to make sure, as I'm sure you do, that everybody's covered.
Sure. Yeah, we were just trying to be more just cost effective for the city, and so that makes perfect sense.
And I'm happy to, like I said, I'm happy to review those at no charge for the city, because I know that I don't know how much municipal court Mike used to do, but I seem to have gotten quite a doozy in the last couple.
This year has been significantly busier than past years in municipal court, I will say.
And so, I mean, I know that I don't know how much Mike used to do, but like I said, this compared to what we had last year even, I mean, it is leaps and bounds larger. And so I know that there's quite a bit of expense to the city there, and I am really trying to mitigate that as best I can, but I still have to follow the proper procedures and go through proper notice and the proper steps, procedural steps. So yeah, I'll just review those things free of charge for the city.
Sounds great.
Absolutely.
Sounds like your cowboy fan. Instead of an Eagles fan. Not an Eagles fan.
Huh. So the next topic is we were approved for the Sutter Venue Operators Grant that I applied for the theater. So we will be getting $31,171.73. In the application, of course, I had to submit the expenses that would be used for, and that is to reimburse the theater department in the general fund for expenses that were incurred between March 1st of 2020 through December 31st of 2020. So basically what that means for us this year is those funds will just be a transfer, not a transfer. There'll be a reimbursement into the general fund theater department. And specifically it's covering the payroll for that time period, some movie fees for that time period. There was something else. Now I can't remember, but there were specific items that it is reimbursing the fund for. So that was actually, I was kind of surprised, but
Good job.
yeah. So, and then we did also receive our grant award notification letter from the New Generation Fund. It's out there on the sheriff for the $3,170. So we're fully funded for the dog park. And I did notify Tom Small, and I think he's been working with JR, and I got a bill from Heritage Lumber, so progress, I'm not sure when they're going to start on that, but they've purchased the materials, and moving forward on that. So that's great. Yeah. It wasn't clear at the last meeting when I was listening to my minutes, I wasn't clear on this. Do you want me to email my approved minutes to the paper for publication? If they will print them just as I've written them. Is that something you want me to start doing?
You're talking about 2 weeks after the fact?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's what's
I think it's a waste of time, and I think if you open up Pandora's box. Not for the public, but I'm just talking about for parents.
Oh, for them to be changing it or
Yeah,
something?
it could be just one little typo that could change the whole, you know, you don't think it would, but it sure as the world would be something,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that was something that superintendent request from us and not us just saying, here's the information. You know, I think if they wanted it, then we can.
It'd be nice if there is stuff in the paper, but it'd be nice if it was current, you know? Like, you know, next week we're going to start on the streets, or, you know, or,
Yeah,
I mean, that type of information.
okay, okay.
I don't know.
Well, that's kind of what I took away after the last meeting, but, what's that?
I say the CHAD days don't come in.
But they
We
do
had something
know.
last meeting that 30% of our population actually read the paper.
They get the paper, and
Not
then,
even kids.
and then 30% of them
Right?
read it. I read about 10% of the paper.
Yeah, so I mean, you know, we don't have the details for around it all. And it's on the share card, it's on the webpage, so.
It is, yeah. And this is out there for the paper to listen to the very next day,
Right.
so.
There's enough sources out there that people.
Right, if you want it, you can get it.
Well, if they want it, they can come to the meeting. If they want to know what happened.
Right.
They can come in and read them in the office too, yeah. Okay, I just want to make sure that they do that. So I need to request, when we were talking about bids earlier, the bid process, we received no bids for the painting of the Penn Shell. And I advertised locally and I advertised in the Mile Saver and we didn't get any response at all. I don't know what to do next about that.
We're just painting it?
Since Jen's on vacation this week, we had to process bills on Friday because he's the one that does the checks. So there's 3 bills that I got today, 2 bills I got today, and one other thing that I'm going to ask for to pay out of cycle. One of them is Ward Electric did send a bill, and I just got it today. The first one, it's for $34,022.83, and I'd like to pay that out of cycle because our next bill cycle is not until September 8th. And if that's okay, we need a motion and a vote to approve paying that. Well, who was it, Jared? Everybody, okay.
Larry.
Not a vote. just
Things
a
like that
motion.
should be obviously.
You know,
Everybody is tested anyway.
so, but we didn't have a price. So I think if moving forward, I'm going to check with our auditors, but I feel like if something's approved in the minutes for a price, and then we get a bill, we should be able to pay that bill out of cycle without me having to get permission. So I am going to clarify that.
Yeah, what if you get one tomorrow,
Yeah,
and they wait 2 weeks here?
yeah.
So,
That's generally what happens.
yeah.
So I'm going to check with the auditors on that. But we didn't have this bill at all. We didn't know the amount or anything until today. The other one is a compliance one. That's our drug testing. Those do come once a month, and we generally have them for this first meeting, but it didn't come until today. So we do need to get that one paid. It's $188.50. So I just need a And then the last one is our AirMed membership. I'm still waiting on a response from one person for our employees to renew their membership. So the way that works is, just as a reminder, they pay the city for their membership, and then the city writes one check to AirMed for our plan. AirMed does. So LifeSave is the other one. They no longer offer memberships, and they've gone to a patient advocacy type plan where they work with your insurance companies directly, and they don't do the memberships anymore. But AirMed still does.
And is it too late for a council member to get on that?
If you fill out an application tonight and bring me a check first thing in the morning, I could
Well,
talk to
sorry,
you
now,
tomorrow.
about that. I meant to just call you, and I didn't, so, yeah.
Yeah. So leave after the meeting and I'll get you. So in that case, it'll be, hold on a second. So I'd like to request an out-of-cycle for up to $716 And that's because I don't know if this other person's going to do it or not. He needs to respond to me by tomorrow, so.
So moved.
Okay.
Okay, all in favor?
And the last thing is the LMI survey. We
Not my bad.
So there are now 243 no responses. Our current LMI count is 488, and that's individuals that are low to moderate income in our community, and we have to have at least 612, at least, and more, in case they kick any of the surveys out. This is important. There is no way we're going to get this done if we don't go door to door or phone calls or something, because we're going to fail if we don't do that. There's no way. Another mailing's not going to work. We have to do that.
And it is 9.
I will drive these surveys to Hill City on the last day, which is August 20th. I'll take the surveys to Hill City so we make sure that they get them. I guess what I'm asking for is commitment from everybody to take 30 names and just, if everybody takes 30 names, including me, JR wants to help a little bit, but 30 names and just do those. If everybody can do that, I think we can get it done, and I think we'll be successful.
This happened the last time too. Council members haven't read at the last, so and it's definitely read at the last.
It is. It is.
I'm going to let you know list so I can get with you on one shot. Get you a list of ones that I can pick up that I either know or neighbors or whatnot.
Yes, and that's good, but you'll have to do 30 people. I mean, if everybody's going to do the same amount, it's like 30 each, and so there's going to be everybody's going to have to go to people that they don't know. Yeah, it's just, I don't know.
When I looked at that list, there was probably 10, 15 people within my congregation that I could go to easy.
Yeah.
People that I work with that have, like, ones that would be easy, like,
Yes.
we kind of fight out those that,
Right.
this congregation, like, people that either I go to church with or I work with that I can easily
Yes.
have contact with them and then, I guess, weed out the rest, divvy out the rest of them.
Yes. However you guys want to do it.
Yeah.
But we got to get on it. We absolutely have to get on it.
This week.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Yeah, like right away. So if you want to just come in, and I'll have the list there. Derek came in and picked up 11 of them or so. Yeah, just come in. What she's doing is I'll give you the actual surveys, and you'll see that, I can show you when you're there how the codes coincide with an address. Not necessarily a name, it's an address. And I do have phone numbers for a lot of them. Phone calls are acceptable as well. So
What are you doing? You're actually physically taking these to the people?
So this list has their name and address.
it does. That, for you it does, so that you know, so that you can see who it is.
What
But,
you hand out, it does.
well, the one I gave there, the actual survey itself does not have names on it. It's just the number. So you'll have to be sure you're coordinating that. But there's something I was going to say about that.
A lot of these are my customers, so
Hit them up when they come in.
If you want a cup of coffee.
Yeah, you can do an exchange. Fill this out, I'll give you a
I
cup
know,
of
I was
coffee.
thinking at the bank last
Man.
week, I'm like, oh, I wish I would have had that.
I guess my question is,
Can I tell?
physically getting these to the people and knowing that they're going to get them back.
No, you have to stand there
Stand there and you help them
and
fill it out.
help them, yeah.
Fill it out, and then we can get it back.
Yeah, you have to get it back in your hand. Either hand it to them and have them fill it out and then give it back to you. Like Dara took some envelopes. If they're not comfortable with you seeing it, just have them fill it out, pull it up, put it in the envelope, and hand that back to you. Seal the envelope. Then you won't see their information, but you'll have the survey.
And then I put their number on the front.
Yes.
Can I tell my 30 people that Gail will give them a discount on coffee?
That, yeah. Probably not, but
Tab for you.
So is that, okay.
you do have to actually get it back from them while right there and then, or we're not going to get them back.
Like I said, there are several that I either work with or close by or, that would be easy for me to reach out to.
And the best, quickest answer, why do I have to fill this out, is the street work that's going on right now is based on having a current LOI, which requires so many people fill these things out. You don't have to- It doesn't have to be complicated, it'll be fun.
That's
So
part
that this project, we can't go forward with any other project until we get enough surveys.
Yes, that's it. That is exactly
What
it.
about the ones that I noticed those were like houses that maybe have sold that the current person on the list no longer resides there? or maybe-
Exactly. That's why I'm saying the code is for the address, not the name. So it's you're surveying the property, the people that are living in the property right now. So if the name is wrong, that doesn't matter because that's not what we're looking at. We're only looking at the property. Yeah, because some of them are rentals too. Like Deb George has a lot of them, and the utilities are in her name. That's the only way we could code them was by our utility database. That was the only way we could do it. So it's not that person that you're surveying, it's the property. I hope that makes sense. But yeah, if you guys could just come into the office sometime this week, and we'll go through the list, and we'll try to get as many of them assigned to folks, and I'll give you the surveys, and we'll get going on this, and that would really, I'd hate to see us fail. We put a lot of work into this, and expense, too. So, and that's all I have. Yes. Yes. I do believe your name is still on the list. Actually, yes. In fact, there's a few properties, yes. And if you can get those to the people that live in those properties, oh my gosh, that would be so helpful. Yes. Volunteers are, yes. We used a lot of volunteers last time. Your mom, she was no longer working for the city, but she helped do the door-to-door stuff. And so,
Can you email this list?
yes, I have an updated one. I did email it to everybody. Yes. Because I had reached out to a few since the last meeting that I knew, and we got some mailed back in. So I'll send everybody an updated list tonight right after the meeting. And then,
If you have those readily available, I'll take them with you because I'm going to two of them tonight.
I do, if you can wait just a little bit after the meeting. Okay.
Perfect, thank you.
Yes. That's all I have.
Any questions for Lila? If not, hear a motion to approve? Moved by Hale, second by Tara, all in favor? All right, council comments, David.
Just moving forward on getting the new businesses, ribbon cutting dates and all that set, and meeting with Helen tomorrow and get everything finalized.
Can I have Terry stop by and pick this stuff up from you?
No, because
Can we give it to one of the other council members so that I can get it? Or can I get it from you after hours?
well, you get it from after hours. Yeah, anything you guys need, just let me know. You mean the physical list or what?
But if he just wants certain,
I'm
if
just,
just 30 things, he's not here during the day, if one of us could pick them up and give
that's
them
what
to
I
him, or call you after
How to
hours.
get a hold of them.
Call me and I'll get them for you. Yeah, I have no problems coming in after hours.
Okay, I've got two things. I remember what I need to ask Tara. You haven't left the city employees. Or getting anybody hired. I'm not talking about you.
We have not advertised again, of course, we did get one. And he's doing very well.
Really?
Very well.
I'd like to say good now and then.
I did.
There's an application in your basket.
I got a text about that one. I remember that. But we have not advertised.
Who's the new kid?
Draven Health.
Draven,
yeah.
Second thing, and I've talked to JR and to Scott about this, I just want to run this past the council. Roger Nigel would like to, we're going to have the long run do the national anthem. He'd like to shoot fireworks off just briefly right after the national anthem in the
Yes.
northeast corner of the park. Just think it'll be a great addition. So, everybody okay?
Yeah.
If the wind comes up or something, we won't do it. I mean, we'll be cautious.
Well, that won't happen.
Do we need to have the fire department on, like, just there on standby?
Well, I think Dan's going to be there, so he can bring a fire extinguisher.
Fire extinguisher.
If the garden goes out.
I think Dan's going to be there and open it, so that's all I've got.
I might need a ride home.
Still gotta-
You and me both.
Don't
We
walk-
still-
don't
we
walk
still-
through?
We still
Don't we
have
still
bills
have
on
to
ordinance.
review
Oh, shoot,
The
sorry.
1053.
Oh, I want to use the restroom. I've already looked at it.
On that note.
Maybe.
Get that fire inside.
Huh?
Get that fire inside.
Oh, I was trying for that reason.
Real quick, yeah, I don't know if you had an opportunity to look at your attorney email since last Thursday, but that guy that wants to send court
Yeah,
dates.
didn't, the last time we had an extension, but it was, the order came from Judge Keller. She didn't have me draft it. Did you want me to draft it?
She
Okay,
said
all right.
this one needed to come
I'm
from
trying
the
to come down
attorney
north of Quincy. Same thing out into that
he didn't
field.
appear in court.
We cut that out.
This is his first appearance, and he's
Group
asking
chat
for
again?
his court date.
I mean, we've opened it up all the way down the railroad tracks in years past.
Well, it's never bad unless
But I
they
don't
have
know.
I don't know
wash
how I
it,
need to
and
do
then
it
it just
quick,
pulls.
so you lose
But
it going on vacation.
I've never had a
This
problem.
would
I
be-
built mine up
I
so
don't
high,
know,
it's
but I
not
know
even
he's
got
not gonna
within
do
30 feet of my
court date,
building,
so
but
it's next
that street right there, it
Wednesday.
pulls.
Okay, I will get
So
something
it just
drafted
doesn't
in
drain
the
fast
next
enough when
day
it
or
comes to
two.
color wash.
Would you
Yeah,
call
and I mean, when it
whoever?
gets
I
really
can't
bad, it'll
contact,
flood
like,
that
I don't know
whole
why she's
field
saying it needs
right
for
down
reviews.
there at
I can't
Bartlett.
talk to
So
her.
if-
She hasn't
And
had
it'll
a first
actually flow
appearance.
back
Yeah.
the other
So,
way,
but I can
across
call.
Benton
Okay.
Street
And
down
get it
there.
in
I
the
mean,
file.
it's,
Okay,
it's a
because he needs to
low,
consent to it, so what I'm gonna do is
unsloped
a consent order
That being said, we
that's
can
signed by
enhance
both
it
of us,
out of
and the
that
judge
thing
signs
by
it saying
cutting
he
that,
needs to
digging
come
that thing
in.
out
Yes.
towards this
I
fall.
can,
Probably
I'm sure I can make that happen as long as we get it done before he leaves.
Okay.
But
We
I-
can make it
Okay.
better, usually. but
Would you call him,
a
would you
puzzler
mind
because
calling
when you
him
can't get rid of it,
tomorrow and finding
you know,
out
when
when
you
he's
can't get
gonna
it
be,
out,
so I know
it's
when
set.
I need to get that done by?
Yep.
I will try to get it done tomorrow or the next day.
Okay,
Yes. Is that all?
yes. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, I will get it. Yeah, I can't talk to him. So I'm
And
not,
I know, I don't understand.
I don't understand, I have no problem drafting it, but, I mean, it's an order, so it has to be signed by Judge Keller. We need an
Yes.
order to continue, and so it has to be signed by Judge Keller,
Oh.
and I can't communicate with the defendant until he's either, until he waives counsel and has had his first appearance. I mean, because if he doesn't waive counsel, then I have to talk to his attorney. So, yeah.
It seems so complicated for someone who just needs to change their court date
Right.
because they can't be here.
I have not, yeah, I'm not sure why the court can't. I mean, he can ask the court for that, and then the court can approve that. So I'm not sure why I need to be involved. Because in the district court, either party,
I could call Judge Keller again tomorrow and ask her.
I mean, that's, I have no problem doing it. If
I was
Judge Keller
just
wants me to
thinking
do
that.
it, I don't have any objections, but I can't, because I can't talk to the dude. I mean, in district court,
Okay.
either party may petition
Roger.
for a continuance, and then the court
Okay, I'll do it.
either grants or denies
You're
that
not
with
gonna
an
knock on
order.
his door.
And so he's requesting a continuance.
Oh, I'm gonna knock on his door.
I don't,
Who is, so you had Mike?
I have no problem drafting it.
Okay.
I need to know when I need to have it drafted by, because he needs to sign it, and I can't have any interaction. So, yeah.
No,
Okay.
It's really good.
It seems very complicated.
It very much does, yes, it does.
Thanks, Lila.
Okay,
Happy New Year.
I'm not joking either. Not joking. Okay, did everybody have a chance to review the bills on ordinance 1053?
Obviously, yes.
Go ahead.
Got my bass boat through.
Anybody? Questions, motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Gail, second by Larry, all in favor? Okay. Motion to adjourn, Gail. Larry.
Good job.
Randy.